Welcome to the With You and For You podcast. Our desire is to equip college-age students within the Edmond, OKC area by discussing topics and questions that are relevant to our generation. With that in mind, thank you for tuning in, and let's get to the show. Welcome back, guys. Today we got the crew back again. We got Krista Smith, Tyson Hill, and Kyle Thomas. So this week is a fun week. Why are you laughing already? I didn't say anything.
It's Krista.
I didn't do anything. That was I feel like that was solid.
It was.
Gosh, get off my back. But this week is a special week. It's Valentine's Day this week. It's Valentine's week or whatever you want to call it.
It will already be past Valentine's Day by the time this
Oh,
comes
really?
out. Yeah.
Okay, so it'll already be
But
past
the point
Valentine's
still
Day.
remains.
Yes.
The point still remains.
This is our Valentine's themed.
Valentine's
episode.
themed episode. Exactly right. So, like, what do you guys think about Valentine's Day? Do you like it? I don't know. What do you think?
I don't.
You don't like Valentine's Day?
I really don't.
Why?
But I like spending money, so I like Valentine's Day.
You like
But
Valentine's
this will
Day?
be the first Valentine's Day, right? That you're not single in a while, Krista?
I mean, yeah, but I was like, I told Micah, I said, listen, I don't like Valentine's Day. And he said, I don't either. So, I don't know. We might not do anything.
Oh.
Oh, it's Tuesday. We'll go bowling.
But not because it's Valentine's Day, just because that's their built-in date
We go
day.
bowling every Tuesday.
That's right.
Oh my
But this
gosh.
time it'll be a little more packed because it's Valentine's Day. You either have all those single people there bowling because they have nothing else to do, or you'll have the couples bowling.
So Valentine's Day, it's a fun day. It's awesome, right? But today we're just going to be kind of focusing on like the dating aspect of that. So as Christians, like, why do we date? Like, what's the purpose in it? I know all the time we hear, we date to marry, but like actually going through the process of dating, what's the point of that?
Yeah, I think of it a lot like, and I mean, I know you guys don't know what this is like, but when you, Lord willing, have children, you look back and how did you learn kind of what was socially acceptable, what was not? You're kind of interacting with other kids, you're around other people, like you're developing those social cues, and dating is a kind of similar component in that, hey, how do I learn how to not be weird while on a date? Like, you're not necessarily going to learn that unless you're just like, you're on a date and you're weird and then the person doesn't reciprocate and you're like, oh, I shouldn't be this way. Like,
Do you
maybe
have
I
a lot
should,
of experience with that, Kyle?
maybe I should, no, I don't actually. Maybe I should not say these things or not do that thing or whatever. But you also learn, like, hey, what are the things that I'm interested in? What are the things that I'm looking for? You learn those things as you date, as you go on dates. I know my look and view on dating is a little different than others, but I don't think that dating isn't necessarily, hey, I'm committed to this person. It's, hey, I'm going on a date with this person to get to know each other. And I would say it's completely fine if you went on a date with somebody on a Friday night and it's like, hey, we're getting to know each other. That was fun. It was a good time. Like, sweet. Had a great dinner, coffee, whatever. And then it's like, oh, hey, I'm gonna go on another date with somebody else on a Sunday. And like, I'm getting to know them, kind of thing. There's not this commitment level in that early on stages of dating. So I think those are big components about that, and that helps us as we work towards finding that person that we're wanting to commit ourselves to and marry. So,
Yeah, for sure. You guys have anything else to add?
I have a slightly different opinion on the word dating, though.
Okay.
Because I don't know. I think sometimes people try to make dating either less or more than it's supposed to be. I think that's what Kyle's point is, and saying like it's okay to kind of go on multiple dates with different people. But I think that, to me, like, I still wouldn't call that dating until like we're dating. Like I think that you can go on dates, but I really wouldn't consider that dating until like you are in a relationship or you're both on the same page. because I just think that sometimes we like could use that as an excuse of like, oh yeah, like of course I'm dating them and them and them, and I'm like, well, but like I need you to make a decision, because like there's a time to like meet multiple people, and there's a time to make a decision, whether that's to not date any of them or to date one of them.
Yeah. And that's where I would say you're in a relationship,
Yeah,
not dating really. But
Yeah.
these are all words.
Oh,
these are all
yeah.
words. I love it.
So, like, okay, you're in that dating process. Let's say a person's going through this dating process. They're going on multiple dates with people, and they're just kind of like, I hate to say it, but like weeding out people, and that's a terrible description of that. But like, I mean, you kind of know what I mean in that fact. But like, what are the qualifications you're looking for in a person as you're going on dates? Like, what are you looking for within them?
I would say if you're a believer, they must be a believer.
Oh,
Like if you believe in Jesus and you're wanting to pursue a relationship with Christ, like the person you're going on a date with or wanting to maybe have a relationship with or commit to whatever, however you want to define it, like if they're not a believer, then you should not do that because it's just going to bring heartache and trouble and everything. So that's one of them for sure. One of the qualifications.
I would say that in the grand scheme of things, that's the only qualification, and then it goes to like personal preferences.
Yeah.
Because I think that sometimes we think that like we just have to give everyone a chance, but like it's okay if you don't want to go on a date with someone. Like they can be an awesome God-loving person, and you not want to go on a date with them. But I think the only qualification for me, like in dating, is like, okay, do they love the Lord? Yes. All right.
And well, I would even say like yes, like because they can love the Lord, but are they actively pursuing the Lord? I think that's a really big component in that, because I mean, somebody can go to church and claim that they're a Christian, and not be, I mean, continuing and growing in their relationship with the Lord. And I think having an active, growing relationship with the Lord is really important. And I would agree with Tyson in saying, like, really in the grand scheme of things, that's really all that matters. And then, I mean, personal preferences kind of come into play after that. But yeah, I think that's really important, because I know people who are Christians who have dated non-Christians, and it's not good. So yeah.
yeah.
Now I'll say that you will not be able to make them a Christian by dating them.
Yeah, and that's
yeah.
because then you're spending. Well, that's a whole other topic.
Yeah.
I think there are personal preferences that do become non-negotiables, and I think you need to hold to those. But again, oftentimes we like to think we know, oh, hey, I haven't gone on a date with this person, but I know how it would end up, when we don't necessarily know that to be true.
Yeah.
I mean, I know plenty of people that have ended up, marrying each other that may not have initially dated early on if they would have, like, just because of immaturity, whatever, and because they thought like, oh, well, I knew them then, kind of thing, and so we have to be careful not to like cut that short as well. And so it's okay to have a list of like non-negotiables, and some of those things, I mean, could be, hey, here are the things that, I mean, attraction is part of why I want to date somebody. It may not be the whole thing, right? Or necessarily should it be, but some of those things, can become non-negotiables, and that's why going on dates can help us learn even our own preferences. Like, oh, hey, like I enjoyed having conversations with this person, but then dating, it was really awkward. It was weird. Like, they kind of always talked about themselves. I don't know, whatever that looks like, to where it's like, I don't really like that, or I didn't really enjoy that. So even though we could be two Christians going on a date, that doesn't mean that we have to get married. So there's also that. Like, I mean, it's definitely the staple and the qualification that needs to be there. But there also needs to be that understanding, like, oh, just because we both believe in Jesus and we want to, fulfill the Great Commission with our lives and make disciples, like, that doesn't mean that we're going to get married.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So what you're saying, like, this kind of going back to what Tyson was saying, missionary dating is not an option.
Yes, no, you cannot. Like dating to bring people to the Lord
like
is just a prideful excuse to do stuff you're not supposed to.
Yeah.
That's probably
I heard someone one time say it like, I mean, even if let's say that like they are a Christian, like they've grown up in the church or whatever, but they're not actively pursuing the Lord, they have sinful habits and things like that. But in your mind, you're sitting there and you're like, oh, but I know them, and I know that like further on down the road they can be like that. Then you're not dating them; you're dating their potential, and that's not. I mean, that just isn't how that works. So
It's a bad idea.
yeah, it's a bad idea. So yeah.
Okay, so we've gone through the dating process, and now we're like, this hypothetical person is dating somebody. They're in a relationship, and now that they're in the relationship, what kind of boundaries would you say would be smart to like set within the relationship?
All of the
Go ahead, Krista.
Okay.
Krista got really excited.
Well, I just yeah.
Boundaries. Yes.
Yeah.
I'm in. Sign me up.
It's just because I have this conversation a lot with I mean a lot of the girls just at BCM and just like in general and things like that. And so I think it's been really cool. Can I like talk about me and Micah's relationship? Can I do that? Is that okay?
That's
Is
fine.
that
man.
fine? Okay, I'll do that.
Absolutely not. You can't get personal.
Well, it was just been really cool because
time out for 1 second before you go. I don't think we're recording video at all.
It's recording here. It's not saying it's recording there.
Yeah. I don't think we're recording video. So on the 1 second.
Hey, but we're recording audio.
that's all that matters.
yeah, I was about to say if we're not recording audio, this is awkward. You're not making your lunch at 11:30, man. Who are you getting lunch with?
All right, now we're recording audio.
I was about to say, I noticed that it wasn't counting.
Oh my god!
We can go back where we are for the video listeners. You just picked up video.
If you want to see us having this conversation, you're starting about 15 minutes in.
Yeah, for the audio listeners, you're just like, what is this?
I was like, what is going on?
What just happened?
Some technical.
Krista, go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. Boundaries. Yeah. So I think something that I mean, this is just a really cool story that had happened when me and Micah first started dating. When we first sat down and we're talking about boundaries, I mean, I let him kind of lead in that. And one of the ones that he said is he was like, I don't want to kiss you until we're engaged, if that's where this leads to. And I was like, okay, because that was my one thing that I was like, I will not budge on this. And it was funny because later he was like, what if I didn't agree with that? I was going to be like, you better think about it again, because I wasn't gonna budge on that one. And another one.
Oddly familiar.
Well, and another one that we have for each other is we were like, we don't want to be alone at my apartment or his house. And I mean, there will be times where he'll like drop me off after we go bowling every Tuesday night. And like if my roommates aren't home, like he'll walk me inside and he will not, shut the door until he leaves. And that is just a thing that we set for ourselves because we were like, we want to be above reproach. Just because, I'm discipling people, he's discipling some guys, and we just want to be an example to them. And it's been cool because we've both had opportunities. I've had girls at the BCM come up to me and be like, hey, I see you and Micah do X, Y, Z. How can I implement those boundaries into my relationship? And Micah, even the other day, I guess really when we first started dating, had a conversation with a coworker at where he works at, and he was talking to him just about our relationship, and his coworker was like, you guys don't want to kiss until you're engaged, you guys don't want to live together. And Micah gotta share the whole gospel with him through that, just hey, yes, we're doing this because we believe this. So that was just really cool. But I think boundaries also can become very sometimes I think people make them very legalistic, and I would say sometimes I'm trying to think of how I should word this. Not all boundaries, not everyone is going to follow every single boundary. Some people might kiss before they're engaged. And that's okay, but that's just not what me and Micah said. So I don't want it to seem like it's a legalistic thing when really it's kind of what works best for you guys, all in the while of staying on the pursuit of holiness.
Yeah. Yeah, I think definitely the idea of living above reproach, that is the goal in your dating, in your relationship. in your engagement, in your marriage. Like you still want to do those things. Like just because you get married doesn't mean it's like, oh, hey, boundaries like are completely out the window. You know, we don't want to live above reproach in any aspect anymore. Like, and so especially in dating. And I just want to say a hard thing ladies, just hear me on this. You need to have your boundaries, like, and you need to understand, like, hey, these are the things that I don't want to do. And then if you communicate those to the guy that you're in a relationship with, and he continues to push the line and try to like press past what you've set, and you've communicated those things to him, don't continue to date him.
Yeah.
Don't continue to be in a relationship with him, because he's going to continue to do that. Like his goals are not your goals. He doesn't want the same thing you want. And so in dating, whatever it is that you set, like you each have to know each other. And that's why, you know, even for Nikki and I, same boat. Like I told her, like, hey, I'm not going to kiss you until we're engaged, because I knew my temptations and my struggles, and doing that would lead to pushing the line a little farther, you know. And so, so know yourself and set boundaries accordingly, not because you don't want to show that person affection, not because you don't want to show them that you love them and care for them, but because you want to pursue holiness with them, and you want to show them pursuing holiness matters to me. It's important. I want to live above reproach. I want to glorify the Lord in this relationship and how we date, so that at the end of the day, if this relationship doesn't end up working out, we can both rest assured and know, hey, we guarded each other's hearts and we glorified God. That's what I would say is probably the most important thing, especially when it comes to boundaries.
I think like my message for dudes specifically with this whole like regards of like not kissing until you're engaged or you're married, like I would challenge like all the men out there to really like search their hearts and see if the reason they think that's too far is a pride thing. Like I would really challenge them to like to look and see if that's what they need to do. Because for me, like I really, really wish that I would have set those boundaries with myself. And so like for like men out there, like I really would challenge you to guard your hearts in that sense and look internally and see if that's what you need to do. Because at the end of the day, like our boundaries are only as good as the other person's like ability to say no, right? And so like we need to know that, okay, like I have to be strong so they can be strong, because if they fail, then I can't just like fail the boundaries too. And so like through that, like we can work together, because our boundaries are only as strong as the other person's ability to say no.
Yeah.
And I think this also goes back to our conversation we had on accountability. And I think accountability plays a really big part just in your dating relationship, and having, I mean, like those people that can keep you accountable and ask you the questions and ask you, I mean, just how your mindset and your heart set was like with the person you've been dating, like just, well, the person you dated that week. That sounded weird. Yeah, you know.
I don't know what just happened. What? I'm not really sure what you
Never
said.
mind,
Got a
but
lineup? What?
y'all know what I'm saying. Anyway,
I really don't.
like when you meet weekly and then
Okay,
you
there
meet.
you go.
Yeah, you see what I'm saying?
All right,
I
I
just
get it
didn't know how it worked that.
I get it now.
It's fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that's a good deal.
Yeah.
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 Okay, so then this next kind of question is on the flip side for this. And sorry, I hit the table.
Tyson hates you a little bit.
My bad. Like I said, yeah, it's on the flip side of this, and we're gonna kind of transfer over to like the singleness part of this, for the people who are like single on Valentine's Day, which you guys are like all in relationships at this moment, and then I'm
Pretty committed too.
pretty committed. Yeah, good for you guys. 2 marriages and one yeah, just
Dating.
dating. There it is. Relationship.
Whatever you want to call it.
Committed relationship
Yeah.
as opposed to an uncommitted relationship. We need to have a vocab sheet on this episode to show people our terms. This is what we mean when we say this.
Okay.
Okay, when they said dating, they mean this. Anyway.
So, like on the singleness side, how do we prepare ourselves to be good spouses while we are single.
Oh, I got it. You pursue Jesus.
Seems pretty good.
Yes. Pursue Christ.
That's good.
Yes. Develop godly disciplines. Spend time in the Word. Memorize the Word. Be discipled. Disciple others. Go on mission. I would say take the opportunity, like while you're not in a marriage, like to do these things. That not that you can't do those things, obviously, like when you're married. But I think of going overseas for a short term. Like that's something that there's another party in the mix where you have to talk through those things and just say, hey, is this feasible? Is this an option? Can we do this? And then when you had kids, it's like, okay, is this feasible? Is this an option? And for some, yeah, it is. Like that's what the Lord's called them to. And for others, it's like, I can't necessarily, just drop everything that we have going to go and do that for a summer, as I used to be able to. But develop those things and be the person that's pursuing Christ that like you want to date, that you want to end up marrying. Because that's, it's accountability and discipleship. Like even in marriage, I'm encouraged when I see my wife like reading the Bible. I'm encouraged when I see her like teaching our children, scripture and talking through those things and praying with them. Like, and it calls me to action as well to be like, hey, like I need to be doing these things with my kids and vice versa. Like we both do those things, and it spurs each other on and encourages each other to continue to pursue Christ and to really champion each other in that. So make that a part of your everyday life, like in singleness.
Yeah.
Don't just bask in, oh man, woe is me because I'm single. Like I look at all of these couples getting engaged and getting ready to get married, or they're dating, and why am I alone? Like, why is there nobody here? It's like, okay, well, God has a reason for it. And it may not be something that lasts forever, So continue to pursue Christ until that person comes along.
Yeah. And Krista, I know you're a professional on singleness. So
Not anymore, actually. She retired.
let's hear what you have to say.
Anymore, Riley. That's now you. No, I'm just kidding. I love you.
You're the worst.
I love you.
Go
I
for
know,
it.
sorry. I hate that you just labeled me as that. That's fine.
Is it not true?
She did go around and do a lot of talks on
I
singleness.
did.
what- yeah.
I really did.
She
And
made-
it-
she made the
That's all
the
she
circuit.
taught on
I
for
made
about a
the
year.
circuit.
That's
Yeah.
true.
It's crazy. Yeah.
That is true.
well, something. Well,
Am I
let
wrong?
me explain
Seemed
why.
like she did singleness pretty well. I don't know why I'm making fun of her.
I'm not making fun of her. She just
Seems like Riley is.
Absolutely.
Riley's just sad because he knows it's his turn.
It's-
She'll give you her notes. All her notes.
I'll give you my notes.
The torch has been passed to him. She's handing it off. Here's the singleness torch, Riley. Here you go. Your turn.
So anyway,
for it.
I think, well, I want to explain why I am so passionate about this, because I see so many people waste it. And especially just working with college students, and just a lot of conversations that, I've had with girls over the years, and they're just so up in arms about them not having a boyfriend. I'm like, get over it. Like, it is, like, it's not about you. Like, not everything is about you. At the end of the day, everything is about bringing glory to the Lord, and how are you doing that through your complaining? And so with just singleness in general, I agree with everything Kyle said. Go on mission, learn how to disciple others, be discipled, be in community groups, be in accountability groups, memorize scripture, plug into your church, so that when you get married, you have these spiritual habits. And in 1 Corinthians 7, this is a very big Bible. I should have brought mine, sorry. It says, 1 Corinthians 7:35 says, Paul's he's talking about wanting people to be free from anxieties and learning how to please the Lord. And he says, I say this for your own benefit, not to lay any restraint upon you, but to promote good order and to secure your undivided devotion to the Lord. And so before that, he's talking about people getting married, and then he says, like, I want you to secure your undivided devotion to the Lord, because you have, this time now. Yes, like, I'm not married, and I really have really enjoyed my time. Just like at TCC, and even just like now, still not being married, and knowing that I have this undivided devotion to the Lord that I can just give to Him. I can wake up early and do these things. I know I mean, Kyle said it a couple of times just over the years. Like, I know, like, you have to wake up early and, like, get your kids ready and, like, do these things. Whereas, like, I can wake up at any time of the day and, I mean, I can pray and I can start my day off with the Lord. Not saying you can't do that, but I can have that structured time with the Lord that I might not have whenever I do get married or have kids. But there was something else I was going to say that you had said, but now I can't remember it. So it'll come back to me. But it'll come back and I'll just interrupt you. But yeah, go ahead.
Well, I just
Good.
the word that I think of when I think of even singleness, dating, even engagement is like contentment.
Yeah.
Like if you are not content with Christ alone, you will not be content in a dating relationship. You will not be content in your engagement. You will not be content in your marriage. There'll always be something you want more of, and that's really sinful and selfish and prideful, as Tyson mentioned. I mean, you think of this idea of dating, and there are so many things that can disrupt what God's doing, right? We sit there and we say, oh, maybe I'm too busy to date. When it's like, well, okay, but if this person you want to actually pursue a relationship with, like, have you talked to them about that? Or are you just trying to like, oh, I'm trying to save them from my busyness? Well, who's saying that they're not vying for all your attention? They're not vying for you to spend every hour that you're awake with them. You know, like that's not what they're doing. They're not asking that. But for some reason you have this unrealistic expectation. Or it's like, oh man, maybe I'm not ready. And sometimes these things can be true. And I'm not taking those things away from people, but we feel these worldly examples. We feel these examples of other people around us. Right? Like you could be dating right now or starting a dating relationship and you start to see all of these couples getting engaged and you're like, oh, like if I'm going to date somebody, like I need to know quick if I want to be with them for the rest of my life. And it's like, what? No. Like who's to say you can't date for, an extended period of time and do it in a godly way and be an example for those that will date for an extended period of time in a godly way. Like I had a couple that was in college with me. They dated, I think, starting their sophomore year of high school, and they didn't get married until after they graduated college. And so that's like 7 years that they, actively pursued each other while pursuing the Lord, and they didn't cross any boundaries. They didn't, screw up or anything. Like, I'm not saying that they're perfect, but it's like, hey, like they were content with their relationship with the Lord, but also with their dating relationship, and pushed out any expectations or ideas from other couples that may not have been dating as long, getting married, to pressure them to make these decisions that they're like, hey, that's not where we're at. And so I think we really need to work on being content in dating. I mean, content in our singleness, content then in dating, content in being engaged, content in being married. Like, and it'll help us. It'll help us be better examples of who Christ has made us and the sacrifice he's given for us. And as we pursue the Lord, and so then when temptations and struggles come, it's like, I don't need that. Like my relationship with this person, it's ours. Like this is the story that God has for us. It's not, hey, you know what? We need to date for 3 weeks, get engaged, and then get married within 3 months. Like that's somebody else's story. And so like just understanding that, like that's okay. There's no rush or there's no timeline to compare to. So
I think that's good, and like taking pressure off both sides of the equation, because like some people out there are probably in a place where they don't want to date, but they feel pressured to date.
Yeah.
And it's like, hey, like that's okay. It's okay if you don't want to date right now. It's okay if you want to, focus on some school and the Lord and mission opportunities and all this. Like, don't feel pressure to date someone just because people say you'd be good together, or you think you need to be dating them. And then the other way, like, hey, some of y'all just need to be single. And I think the question, like, if you want to ask yourself and kind of break down some pride, and like once again, like, do you have faith that the Lord has given you what you need for this season?
Mm-hmm.
And then like, if you have faith in that, then you should be able to be content with whatever season you're in.
yeah.
No, that's really good. So kind of final question, just to wrap this up. Do you think, or do you believe that we overcomplicate dating
Yes.
as Christians?
100%.
Yes.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
dude, marriage is way more complicated than dating.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I mean, I guess I'm glad that I don't have to like I get to date the one person for the rest of my life, my wife. Like I'm excited that I'm in that in this day and age, because this day and age, man, you guys, it's crazy. Like people are like, oh, how do I initiate conversation? Oh, I have to DM them on Instagram. Like that's how I
Just talk to them.
that's
in
how I
Just DM
initiate that
them.
conversation. You know, it's like what? Like oh, I need to know. Like I've had students who are like, but what if she says no to me if I ask her out? I'm like, then you know how she feels about you. That's what happens. And they're like, but I just want to know before I ask her out. I was like, you're not going to. Like, what do you, sorry,
So
man up. Like, I got nothing for you.
you're saying we have to talk to girls?
Yes.
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 Yeah. If you want to get married, you're gonna have to ask 3 questions. All right. You want to go on a date?
Yeah.
You want to be in a relationship with me?
right.
And will you marry me?
Amen.
You got to ask those 3 questions to get married. And you got to ask them. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And by the 3rd question, you should know the answer before you get there. Like the first 2, you may not know the answer to, but
That's
the 3rd one, you should know the answer.
Yeah.
before.
if you're asking the last question without really feeling confident, like, hey, I've got a 75% chance here, like, then I don't know if you should be asking it yet. You know, like, oh, what if she says no?
Time to start over, I guess.
If she's getting ready to break up with you and you say, "Will you marry me?" Bad time.
Bad
Don't do it.
I think we do like overcomplicate dating, and I think we make it to where like we have these like list of rules in the sense of like, okay, I have to date them for 6 months, and at that point in time I need to know, and then by this time I need to be engaged, and this time I need to be married. And that's just not what works for everybody. And that is totally okay. And I think people need to understand that what works for some people might not work for them.
Yeah.
And I honestly think just our Christian culture, we've kind of made it this legalistic thing. I mean, with all the books and all the podcasts that are out there of like, again, just
Stop
like,
listening right now.
yeah,
guys.
just like, yes, like timelines or like these are the exact boundaries you need to have. This is exactly how it needs to go. To then it makes dating not fun and it makes it stressful. And it should not be a stressful process. It should be a fun process getting to know this person and evaluating whether or not I want to spend the rest of my life with this person.
Yeah.
And I just, I think we overcomplicate it. And I think we need to understand, again, not what works for me might not work for this couple over here. And that's totally okay.
I think the thing to like help not overcomplicate things, 'cause I think overthinking is the issue, is realizing that in dating, in a relationship, there's 2 people. And so that means that like there's
3
2
if you include the Lord.
Oh yes, there's 3 including the Lord. Wow.
Got it.
But like, so if you think out, you could think out the way every conversation is going to go. You can think out your whole life. You can think out all this, but like that's not accounting for the fact that like you need to be loving and listen and like compromise on certain things with another person. And so like if we just account for like, okay, like I have these things and like these are the things that I'm unwilling to move on. And like these are the things that like I'm okay with compromising on. And like that should be how you go into a conversation. That's how you should go into like dating. It's like, okay, like these are the things that I hold firm to and I will not budge on these. And then these are the things that like, hey, I'm willing to learn about.
Yeah. Yeah. I think just really understanding like, hey, I want to be a mature person in this relationship. And then if you're dating somebody, hopefully they have the same mindset. Like, hey, I want to be mature. And if there are 2 mature people, like they can have a genuine conversation and not like lose it. Right. To where if you're sitting there like, oh, I just don't know if this relationship's working out. Like, I don't know if I'm too busy. I've got too much going on. Like, I'm going to be, gone in 6 months and like, I'll be gone for, 2 months and I won't be able to talk to him at all. Like, so I'm freaking out about that. Like, then have a conversation with the person. Don't like, if you like the person, don't make these decisions in your mind without bringing that person into the conversation and being like, hey, these are the things I'm feeling. Like, what should we do? Right. And I think I've seen this a lot to where, and I'm not saying it's just ladies, but sometimes it tends to be more like the ladies will like overthink everything and they'll freak out, be like, I don't have the answer of, yes, I want to marry this person right now today. But there's nothing that says, hey, after my 3rd date, or, hey, we've been in a relationship for like 3 months. I need to know right now. Some people do. some people, they know. I mean, Nikki and I, we were graduated from college and we were dating, engaged, married within 10 months, like all of that. And so that's not true. We were engaged in 10 months. We were married within 14. Sorry, forgot about those other 4 months. But it was like we were at a different phase in life. Like we weren't, in college. Like I was much more mature, and everything. So for some people, that's how it could be. It could be shorter. For some, it could be longer. But there's nothing that says like, oh, this is the timeline, as Krista mentioned. Like, and if I don't know, then I've got to call it. Like, no, if you don't know, or if you're worried or you're anxious about things, like, and you trust that person you're in a relationship with, talk to them, bring them into the conversation. Like, it's a two-way street, and that's how it is. Even engagement and marriage, like the whole process. Like, you want to continue to bring them into these things, and so it's a good process to get in a habit of.
Well, I will also say, kind of on the flip side of that, I do also think people do need to have an end goal in mind sometimes, because sometimes people will just date forever, and then they're like, oh, well, like it's too expensive to get married or whatever, so we're just gonna move in together because we'll get married one day, but not right now. Like, I think there needs to be an end goal, but at that, the conversation for that and the point as to which like, hey, yes, I want to marry that person can be different, if that makes sense.
I think I think the end goal in a relationship is always marriage. But like when we make that decision of like, okay, like you're the one who I want to move on to that next step with, I think you just need to set up a timeline.
Mm-hmm.
So like if it's like, okay, like talking to them, be like, okay, like right now, like, dude, I want to continue to pursue you. I want to continue to pursue the Lord with you and in a relationship, but I'm just not sure yet. Then be like, okay, well, let's reevaluate 6 months, a year from now and see if we're at that point yet. And then in that reevaluation, it may come down to the point of where you're like, okay, like I'm still not ready. And the other person's like, well, like, then I'm just going to move on. And like, I think that's okay. I think that's okay to give both people the seat at the table for that conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what I'm seeing here is like the common theme among all of those answers is that communication is important. And if there's not any communication within a relationship, it's just not going to go well.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's just it.
It goes back to my 7th grade relationship where I started dating this girl. And I mean, obviously dating, like you're not really dating. It's like, hey, mom, can you drop me off at the movies? And then you go watch a movie. You don't talk to each other. And then your mom picks you up and you go home.
Is that what happened?
All the time. But it's like, girl ends up moving at the end of the school year. I don't talk to her for like 5 months. And then she shows up to a football game like in the fall. And apparently we'd still been dating. Like, freaked me out. I had no idea. And it's just like, it's one of those, it's like, I mean, that just shows, I mean, I was a 7th grader.
Yeah.
Like, what was I doing?
Are you still dating her?
No, I'm married. I'm married to somebody else. But I'm just saying, it's one of those, like, communication is really important. Like, you need to initiate conversation. And if you're not willing to do that, then it's okay not to be dating. Like, you don't need to have this pressure on you. But just be honest, just tell that person, like, the truth. Don't try to save somebody's feelings from getting hurt by making things up or telling half-truths or kind of skirting around what is the truth. If it's like, hey, I just really don't want to date you, maybe don't say like, man, I really don't want to date you. But just be like, hey, I just don't want to date. Maybe not cut out the you part. Just say, I don't want to date, or this isn't working out. Like, just tell them the truth. Ladies, if a guy asks you out, you don't want to go on a date with him, just say no. That's it. Just say no. Don't say not right now. Maybe in 6 months. I'm not dating for a while, so no. Because what that does is that gives the guy hope, right? And the guy's like, not right now. Okay, I'll ask you again in 6 months. When you don't want him to. Mm-hmm. You don't want him to ask you again. So I mean, just be honest and don't and communicate. I mean, that's a big deal. So,
and guys, if she says no, just move on. It's okay.
Respect the no.
Yeah,
It's okay.
it's okay.
Respect the no.
It happens. Okay. You guys have anything else to add?
I think we were talking for a while.
I mean, it's a,
We didn't even
This
talk
is a
about
good topic.
marriage.
yeah.
We'll talk
Are we
about
having
marriage
are we
sometime.
having a part 2 of
There
this?
are a lot of things that
Part 2?
we could talk about, but no, I think it was good. I think it's a good place to start.
Yeah.
To start, so there will
Yeah.
be a
The
part
the
2.
important thing is, I mean, again, like God's given you a brain, so
Mhm.
don't have these expectations put on you by some other relationship. It's your story with that person, so
Mhm.
enjoy it.
Mhm. Okay. Yeah. Oh, and then something I did want to add is that if you guys have any questions or topics that you would like for us to discuss on this podcast, be willing to like DM us on Instagram. And I say that in the outro where Instagram can be found. It's but it's UCOBCM. And like I said, if you just want us to communicate and talk about those things and talk about those topics, we'd be more than happy to. But yeah, you guys have anything else to add?
I don't think so. It's a long one.
Woo, we did it. All right. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for hanging out with us. Be sure to tune in next week where we'll be having another awesome discussion. And if you want more information or want to ask us a question, make sure to follow us on Instagram at UCOBCM.